a spring in your step. There is a twinkle in your eye.
I can throw a rhyme down for you real quick. Yes, they call me Thrill. They say that I'm the man. You disagree? How could you? Let me make you understand.
Should we bring her on the show? Can anybody find me? And there she is.
Fresh as some bread, pulled right from the oven. When you feel rejected, you get some like 11.
Take on me.
She looks wonderful. Mom looks amazing.
Somebody to. Okay, Mom, bugger off now. I've got to show it to you. Love.
Like that?
Joseph Jaffe, ladies and gentlemen.
You just made the new intro of the show. It is 9:01 and it is May 24th. Happy Monday, everybody. Hope you are well. Mom looks amazing. You're right, Bob Farnham. Hope you're well. Stephen Rubin is here. He's watching. Anna Bowman is here and she says, hi, Stephen. And then Bob says, hi, Stephen. And then Stephen says, hi, Anna. And then Anna says, hi, Joseph. And we're basically all saying hello to each other. I am loving this beautiful tanned version of myself. It's not the lighting. It's the fact that I'm fairly tanned-ish. It was beautiful and warm over the weekend. And I got a little bit sunburnt on the nose over there. J.S. Gilbert is here and he says, hi, Joe. And Mr. Jack Goodman says, buy Jaffe coin. Now that, my friends, is a ringer because Jack Goodman is my intern who is absolutely awesome. And I think it's also his way of saying, I sent you my rally ID. Where's my Jaffe coin, Jaffe? So if he keeps on doing the job that he's doing, he may just get some Jaffe coin. Well, today is Brothers Day. Happy Brothers Day. For those of you that have brothers, happy Brothers Day. I have a brother. He is sleeping right now, but there he is. That was from my trip in South Africa right now. It's clear who got the looks and who got the brains. And then there was me. And then there was me as well. Paul is over here, says, sup all hi, Shingy. That did not sound very cool at all. Paul Steckerty. Paul is here to listen and watch Shingy. And he is a smart man because Shingy is smart. And you're just going to love him in a short while. Well, let's talk about fat blogging. A small loss from 183.1 to 182.9. It's important that I stay healthy and fit because your daily countdown to open heart surgery is 29 days. 29 days to go before my surgery. Why am I so upbeat about it? I don't know. Maybe it's because I've been drinking red wine. If you want to support the show, myself, and even look for a bit of a use case in the creator crypto market, you can head to my Creator Coin website. And there are a whole bunch of ways that you can get involved and not just support me during this rehab time, but actually support the show. Every single one of these levels has been linked to a way to get a shout out on the show, sponsor the show, go backstage on the show, even get a cameo on the show as well. So I hope that you will consider that as well. And 10% of all proceeds will go to the Mitral Foundation. Foundations you didn't know existed, but now foundations that you are very committed to. So let's do some birthdays on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Deb Goodman, who happens to be the mother of my wonderful intern. Gary Criven used to work with me at Evolution. Suzanne Avranica from the Wall Street Journal. I'm not sure if she is still there. The great Faris Jacob on Sunday. Rick Liebling. Laurie Coots from TBWA days. And then finally today, Linda Stone, all the way in Cape Town. Auntie Linda, happy birthday. Martine Breskel trope. And finally, my brother from another mother. I was going to sing to him today in Clubhouse, but he never showed because, I don't know, some ridiculous excuse about needing to be with his family. But Mitch, Joel, happy birthday, my friend. But now let's turn our attention to this week. Shingy tonight and soon. Joe Polizzi makes his return to the show tomorrow. Elisa Cohn on Wednesday. And Bob Garfield, who will be the first guest of the new show. Yes, I am relaunching the show on Thursday with a new name and a slightly new format. And if you want to know more about it, it's too goddamn bad. You're going to find out nothing until Thursday. So I hope you will tune in. And I hope you will stay today to listen to Shingy. He is a digital prophet. He literally is a prophet. So he's going to tell us the future. He's going to tell us everything that we need to know about the future of MSN, Yahoo, and AOL. I'm just kidding. But he will tell us everything that you ever wanted. So just post your questions. You have questions, Shingy has answers. Well, now let's get into our seated soliloquy. And the seated soliloquy tonight is called Pick a Lane. Pick a lane. I believe that we are witnessing a rebalancing of the media world from a creator standpoint. Now, I'm a little biased in my point of view, but then again, I'm living my point of view. Put differently, it's not an opinion, it's my soul. Over the past several weeks, we've seen Conan O'Brien and Ellen DeGeneres announce the end of their runs. This, as all the other talk show hosts return to the studio and full audiences, but will things return to normal? I don't think so. Over the past couple of weeks, both Trevor Noah and John Oliver have waded into a very murky and tricky water, the Middle East conflict between Israel and the Palestinians. You won't get a bigger fans and supporters of both personalities than myself. Not just as a fellow talk show host, I just love saying that, but also as a fairly liberal and open-minded individual. I'm also Jewish, and I was beyond disappointed with what has to be said was really both lazy and, quite frankly, ignorant monologues from both of them on the conflict. I feel like they exposed themselves in the process, and in doing so, their credibility is at best bruised and at worst permanently tarnished. I'm not getting into specifics, but I do want to offer up a bigger picture commentary and address them directly. John and Trevor, number one, write your own material, write your own monologues. Don't rely on others. The world has changed. You don't need writers. You need to put in your hours, your 10,000 hours. This is your voice at the end of the day. When you borrow interest from others, who in some cases have their own biases and agendas, you put your own brand at risk. This monologue and every monologue that I write, well, I write it. These are my words. Number two, you are comedians, or at least I thought you were. If that's the case, be funny. Or if you're social commentators, then commentate. But if that's the case, please let us know your leanings, affiliations, and affections in advance. And number three, don't be lazy. There's an old saying, people rise to the level of their own incompetence. I believe both of you revealed that over the past few weeks. Not that you're asking for my advice, but here it is anyway. I would urge you to go back to school, as it were, and reconnect with your mentors, and one in particular, Jon Stewart. The world is looking for authenticity, and right now, that's not you. So pick a lane. It doesn't matter which one. Pick a lane and stay in it. Don't straddle. And best of luck. Well, now it's time for the man. It's time for Shingy. This is a man that needs no introduction. This is a man that doesn't even send me a bio, but he did send me this awesome sizzle reel, which I've watched several times today. And here it is. Please watch this.
What the heck do you do?
And if you want to look into the future of technology, he's the man to talk to. It's an honor to have the brilliant David Shing at the table.
So let's get on with it. We are the connected generation. Consumers are way smarter than we think they are. The secret about future storytelling is really simple. It's about you. This industry can only push forward if we fall forward. We have to do stuff that celebrates pioneering. We are at the cusp of the change of intelligence. It's coming. So the truth is, guys, if you obey all the rules, you miss all the fun.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I love that. Let's bring him on. Shingy, welcome to the show.
G'day, how are you? I didn't realize you're going to make me watch that. Oh, Lord. Hello.
You want to watch it again?
Oh, over and over, please, God.
I liked it. I loved it.
I love your monologue, man. I think that's awesome.
You know what? I wanted to offer some commentary on it, and I think these guys, I think they're too good to be lazy, and I got a feeling that what we're seeing from them is laziness and maybe succumbing to what maybe outside opinion says they should be talking about. But my feeling is like, let's make people laugh, let's have fun, or let's be serious and intense. But I just feel like they're kind of like, what's that old saying? If you try and be all things to all people, you end up being nothing to nobody.
Yeah, I think, if you straddle the point of view, you either want to be loved or hated, right? I suspect. And you can't be both, even if it's a delicate subject. And clearly it's a tenuous point, but there's been tenuous moments these whole, I don't know, couple of years, I would say. And there's a different responsibility, I think, that they could anchor, but I tend to agree with your opinions. But then again, I don't really watch television, so whatever, dude. Good luck.
Well, I guess neither do I anymore. Is streaming television, would you say? I hope not.
No, I hope not too. Yeah.
So there is a lot to cover. You are guest number 258. I guess
it might have been 260. I guess that's Bob Garfield, is it?
I guess it is. He might be 261. No, he's
I missed it by one. Yeah,
he's 261.
He's such a lark.
We can have you cameo, maybe. Who knows? There is a lot to discuss with you, but Anna Bowman says, this gentleman, is he from Australia?
Yeah, I'm from Australia. You better believe I am, man.
And
sorry,
how long have you been in the US, by the way?
Oh, since '99. So it's been a while, man. It's been a while. Mm-hmm.
I moved here in '97, and the accent's staying with us.
I think the accent is the one you actually spend most of your time with. It's certainly developing, I suspect. I mean, I spent 10 years in London, so I can fluctuate a little bit about the sort of a rounded accent, because I found, given I speak so quickly, a lot of people need some roundness to it to be able to just make sure that they can help. But I still suck at enunciation, but I try, But I am very brawny Aussie, and yeah, bloody hell. But if you call me South African or New Zealand or something like that, I wouldn't be so pissed. If you call me British, then I would.
Yeah, no, I know. Listen, we have as a South African and a lover of rugby, or at least they used to. The New Zealanders, we put them at a little bit of a distance. Australians we can tolerate slightly more, but the New Zealanders, just because of the rugby,
Oh yeah,
the
those
Kiwis,
All Blacks.
Yeah, they're unbelievable. So now, but enough about the All Blacks. Let's talk about you. Let's talk about the fact that I said everything I've thrown at you, except for maybe some serenading, some serenading on your guitar, which we will not have you do. You're game for everything. And there was an article written on you that said, "All hail Shingy, AOL's Goblin King." And I said to you, like,
Brilliant.
Can I call you that? Do you mind? And you're like, mate, everything is on the table. But then I actually realized, like, the Goblin King, That's a hell of a compliment, actually, because I guess this is the Goblin King.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I think that's interesting when you talk about people doing their own bloody research. If they'd researched who the Goblin King is, really, I took that as a massive compliment.
Of course. And now I realize why, because first of all, you're as cool as Bowie, and it's the hair. It's the hair, baby. It's the hair.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Sure. Absolutely. Yeah.
So
Goblin King. I love it.
So there you go. You are the king, my friend. But we always do a little thing on the show just to have a little bit of fun, which is what I call unbelievably inept Photoshop. So
yeah, you really do suck at that, but I'm vibing where it goes. I love the cutout.
I do appreciate that compliment, which is a compliment because the words that are normally leveled at me are a lot worse. But we do a little thing here that we call fun facts, and and we send our investigators into the field to try our best to embarrass our guests, because look, we there's not much about you that is ultra embarrassing. I mean, for example, this is all we could find is that you hate Fruffles. I had no idea what a fruffle was, but I think I hate it as well. What the hell is it? Is it a French fry dipped in chocolate?
No, it's not meant to be a fruffle. I don't like truffles.
So you don't like truffles?
No.
And what about fruffles?
I definitely don't like fruffles. What? How disgusting. I mean, that's like the person who bloody well decided to deep fry the Mars bar.
Or if you go to pretty much any like county fair, you'll get Oreos fried. You'll get I don't know.
You'll also get a bloody turkey leg the size of your head. How is that possible? And most importantly, clearly there's non-GMO in there. Yeah, all good, right?
All right. Well, enough about fruffles. Let's talk about your incredible talents.
This is like Elf Yourself. You know those guys, whatever that thing was. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Elf Yourself, or a little bit of Jib Jab.
Oh, Jib Jab. That was the cats who did that, right? Yeah, Jib Jab. I love that.
Well, I will tell you one thing, my friend. The NFT of this particular image is going to fetch on public auction at least about 14 cents. But other than that,
I feel you.
Anyway, that's a little bit of fun. But Shingy, you've been around the block. You were the digital prophet for AOL, and I had so many questions. Like, first of all, why the hell does every company in the world, but particularly companies that really need to build a platform of thought leadership, and I'm not just talking about AOL, I'm talking about Yahoo, like back in the day, MSN, but I think about the holding companies, right? I think about the WPPs and the Omnicoms, all these companies. Why on earth does every company in the world not have a Shingy? And don't say because they're like, give me a Highlander comment, because there can be only one, which is true.
Look, it's not true. There can be multiples, and there are. They're just masked differently, and they do different things. They may not have the persona, perhaps, or the platform that I have, but truthfully, Joe, it goes a little bit like this. So when I joined AOL back in the day, I launched a whole bunch of territories for them. I think it was 11 territories or something. That was called the new geos. And my part-time job was helping the headquarters reboot its brand when Tim Armstrong joined. Amazing, amazing, amazing person to play, chief of AOL. And look, when he came on board, it needed to be rebooted. It wasn't fun. It wasn't a brand. It had lots and lots of users, but it really didn't have the contagion that it should have had as a massive media giant trying to pivot in its space. So my part-time job after helping to reboot the AOL brand, because my marketing budget was pretty much destroyed at the time, was to talk about media differently. So I just went out to the marketplace representing AOL media, and people really gravitated towards my thoughts about media in general, and we got what we deserved out of it. So ultimately I ended up becoming the prophet because, I think it was Tim at the time said, hey, you need to come to New York and be the full-time evangelist. And I said, I hate that title. Google has them, MSN has them, whatever. There's tons of, these evangelists. I'm going to come up with something really unique. So I had a couple of these and decided that the prophet was born. And I really, honestly, Joe, I did it because I thought it was actually going to be fun. And it was a bit of a skylark. And truthfully, the industry also needed a reboot. It needed more creative, and it needed a different type of energy, because we're very quickly barreling down a pretty serious place of programmatic, and sort of the machines are coming to take everybody's jobs. And I just wanted to give a different perspective. So I can talk about that all day, every day, but what I really, really, really care about at the heart of it is whether or not technology is helping humans move forward, period, full stop. And we got what we deserved out of it. All of this to say, why don't they have somebody like me in there? Well, one is I think they do. They're not called the same thing, and they're not necessarily doing the type of work that I've been doing. And part of that work is just resetting people's minds about where it's headed and the perception of perhaps how we could help them at the time. And that was the AOL piece anyway, which ultimately ended on being Verizon Media, and we scooped up Yahoo along the way. So who knew? We also did a deal with MSN. So all of the things you said in your bloody intro, you little shit, was true. MSN, Yahoo, AOL. Somebody had to scoop them up, dude. It just happened to be us, and I was thrilled to be part of the team that did it.
So, in that introduction, actually, in your sizzle reel, you said if you want to move the industry forward, what I heard was you got to fall forward as opposed to fail forward. But I heard correctly, fall forward, you said, right?
I did, yeah.
What does it mean to fall forward?
Right. So if I think fail forward is, I did a book called, a little inspiration book for me, which if you want to copy, anybody who wants it, I can send them to them. I did it back in like 2012, and I read it recently and thought, wow, this is still super current, but it's done in a form that I give a shit about. Short form, well-designed, something that I could refer to all the time. So it's more of an inspiration piece. And I called it forward doing. And what I meant by that is, if you fall forward, you don't even have to think about failing, because you're already going to know you're potentially going to trip. But what happens when you fall over? You can pick yourself up and you can run again. So that for me is more important. And also, part of my background is helping. I helped bring a startup from Australia to the US, and it didn't work. So, and I spent a sort of navel gazing and thinking, oh, this is going to really suck, and it did. But if you go into it knowing that, hey, this could be an experiment, it's not going to work, and I'm going to fall forward, then it's going to be forward. I'm not falling backwards. Falling backwards is just doing what somebody else has already done. And why do that? Because it's already been done. It means it's safe. And if you want to do that, it's called ads. So let's go do something else that feels more inventive, perhaps. So that was the principle behind that.
I like it. And fall forward is different to fail forward.
It is.
Because why is there even why set yourself up for failure, and why assume that failure is even a part of it? And sometimes I was thinking, like, even if we want to boss I love to extend a metaphor to the point where you're just like, you know what, mate, I'm out. Subscribe.
Yeah.
But sometimes when you're running and you start to fall, the only way to prevent yourself from actually falling down is to keep running.
That's right.
So you are technically falling, but as long as that momentum is carrying you, you might actually regain your balance and momentum and keep moving.
Amen.
And so I've never heard that idea of falling forward, but I really do love it.
Yeah, and the other thing that the big principle behind, while I was talking about that a long time ago, this is like, shit, you're quoting stuff from maybe 13 or 12 or whatever, but the idea of this was that, it really is not just about, it is about momentum, but it's not just about momentum. The thing that I'm paraphrasing in that whole statement of forward, that momentum, is that you may be falling forward because of the wrong KPIs. So this thing might be a roaring success, but you could be measuring it wrongly. And so therefore we have to reset that. So it's for me, it's not failing.
Well, I mean, we get into measurement and talk about analysis, paralysis, and everything. Where do you stand, in this giant battle between the left brain and the right brain? Conversations about creativity and this story and the idea and the big idea, and then all of the automation and the spots and the dots and the data, and the accountability. And I'll tell you, even yesterday I did the Beancast with Bob and many conversations about advertisers leaving iOS and moving over to Android because of all the stuff going on, and another article saying, is it time to kill banner advertising, and and all this stuff. I mean, the stuff's in the in the crapper at the moment, the industry in the toilet at the moment. So where do you settle between the left and the right brain, the tension between these two extremes?
Yeah, I love it. And why I love this discussion is that it feels like we've had this discussion for the last 10 years, if not longer. Because look, here's the truth. We could have not screwed up the whole idea of banner. Let's take banner ads just for a moment that you've brought up. Every single website on planet Earth worth its salt has cut these beautiful holes across its websites, gagging for some great advertising work. The challenge with that, it was never set up that way. It was always set up as a direct response. So everybody had to go around the outside of it to try and do something unique. Like the thing you've just put up in the background of us is green maze. So when you think about it, instead of the thing that was created for you wasn't good enough, we went around the outside. I would say that's creativity. Awesome. The challenge is it may not give you scale. And we're in a marketplace where people say, I want to target every single person on planet Earth, and I want to have a deep, intimate relationship. So that target every single person on planet Earth was banner ads. Why? Because it was ubiquitous and there was unification and we were able to do it. The deep or the depth part of that is really about that content marketing, that billions and billions and billions of dollars, which has been sort of masked as content. And so we think it's sort of left in the wake. Maybe, maybe not, because banner ads may still today offer a frequency. But if you're going to measure the KPIs click, then it's never going to work. Joseph, when was the last time you clicked on a banner ad?
Yeah, when's the last time I even saw a banner ad?
Amen. We probably have seen one. If you've gone to, I don't know, go to any publication outside of social, is going to.
All I see is the X that I'm about to click. There is it.
Yeah, media choices. I think it says underneath that.
You said something so beautiful, which is this idea of cutting some holes. I just thought to myself, like, wow, I've never thought about these weird spaces on a page as like taking a newspaper and cutting holes. And sometimes you fold a piece of paper over and you cut a hole and you open it up. And but the thing about also cutting a hole is that light can shine through that hole,
right?
If you're holding it to the light, I suppose. Otherwise just darkness comes through. And maybe that just shows the interesting and the importance of creativity in these spaces.
Yeah, and I was a massive fan of them, believe me, because I was a big believer in making sure that there was this unified, at least opportunity for brands to be able to have this mass audience. Why not if they do something creative? Way back in the day, brother, like 2000, I'm going back, I feel really retro tonight, I don't know, 2012, let's go 10 years back. We would take an MPU, a 300 by 250, and somebody was smart enough, one of the agencies in the UK was smart enough to build this band in a box. That was the box. They actually built a box that was configured big enough to put an entire band in, and they live stream this band playing in a banner ad. That's genius, particularly if they're trying to target all these mass audiences back then when social really wasn't around. And I thought, wow, that's really giving me faith, because what happened was the drummer, the keyboard, and the guitarist were jammed in this box, and the singer was in the 728 by 90 at the top. You can't tell me that's not genius. That's absolutely fundamentally awesome. The problem is it's not what most people do. That was competing against at the time with a bloody monkey that was trying to smack a mortgage rate or some crap. I mean, my problem is we had these beautiful formats and the creativity was really sort of awesome. And they got to a point where I said, forget awesome. Let's just take ads and just run them across the internet so everyone's completely blind to them, because the ads sucked. And then we decided to manifest a different way of getting around that. Takeovers, blinking backgrounds, whatever it is that you could think about. That's not these beautiful holes, but were massive, so you couldn't miss them. And by the time you try to change the X out, it'd bloody been dancing around on the screen. Then along came social, then it got obfuscated to being content marketing. It's like, oh yeah, forget about the banner ad on the side here. It's going to be masked as this delicious little story. Well, that's great, but it's still bloody advertising, isn't it? So where does that all manifest from? The left side of the brain. And if you think about that, or does it? I don't know, because I actually think the data is really important to be able to infer the idea. And the machines are here to tell you what to do. They're not going to be able to tell you how to do it. I think the challenge, though, with creativity is that people don't actually honor the process of creativity. The best ideas do not come when you and I go and jam in a boardroom together with 25 other people with no objectives in the room and no homework. It happens in those moments when you have subtlety and you have this subconscious doing its best work, when you're able to daydream, or you're walking the dog, or having a shower, or doing something completely unrelated. The problem is we haven't created that sort of element for any type of creativity. So I'm a fan of both of them, because I think it's one way of actually thinking is, does the data give me an insight that could come up with a great idea that we could experiment with and maybe fall forward? Cool. If not, then it's just all gut check, and gut check is great too, but that's not going to work all the time, particularly if you're going to be hit with like 1,500 media messages per day. So we have to be just a little bit more gentler about the way that we think about that, because you really do want potentially to have cut through if that's one of the KPIs. If it's not, then great, don't. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, I want to go back to this this really great phrase, which is honor the process of creativity, because what that really tells you is that old saying, you know, the journey, not the destination, right? Who gives a shit about the click? It's understanding what led up to that click and what comes afterwards, right? And I was thinking to myself, like, one of the most, you know, for me, seminal experiences in terms of understanding the process was, do you remember there was a reality series called Project Greenlight that I think Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. So essentially,
or is it a TV show or a series?
It was on TV. It was HBO, I believe. And Project Greenlight essentially was I mean, this was even before reality TV existed, but it allowed a screenwriter and a director to be selected, and then they would go through this process of actually bringing the script to life. But what you actually saw in it, I mean, this is what I saw in it, was how the original vision and the purity of the idea were completely diluted and bastardized by the suits, by all the chefs in the kitchen. And I remember one was a horror. It was a horror movie that ended up being a comedy, you know. And in some cases, horror movies have worked really well as comedy, like, you know, some of the zombie movies. But I looked at it and I just remember my heart crying, you know, for what had happened, and not only understanding the process of creativity or the opposite of it, but I remember thinking to myself, now I know why so many movies suck. Why so many movies with so many incredible actors and incredible names behind it? How on earth could they have allowed this to hit the screens? And now I understand, is that it was death by 1,000, I call it death by 1,000 budget cuts, right? Death by 1,000 paper cuts or budget cuts. And you realize that at some point you look in the mirror and you don't actually recognize who's staring back at you.
You know what's interesting about that? I mean, I completely concur with that. However, I would also argue that when we think about, you know, when you think about, that's why I say honor the process. I'm not saying honor I'm also saying honor the craft, actually.
Yeah.
And instinct, because you could apply that and say, look, isn't what I'm saying just a process, and doesn't the process need to be broken? No, because there is a process to get unearthed creativity. I don't know about you. How many times have you come up with a great idea and the first idea is the one you end up running with, but you go through 20 of them, whether you pitch them or not? I find that all the time, particularly when I'm thinking about brand and design around brand. And I have an instinct for thinking about what brand iconography could be. And what I articulate first feels too easy and too fast and too fluid, then you overthink it. So I think the process of what you talked about, so a horror movie turning into a comedy, it's probably the overthinking, and you lose the instinct. But that's where I'm a massive fan of craft. I'm a massive fan of people actually, you know, being known for what they can do. So look, I'm a designer, but let me paraphrase with my train of thoughts going, or let me sort of add some color to it. I'm a graphic designer by trade. I'm the last school of traditional graphic design in Oz. And when I graduated, the School of Computers came, and that was great. But it gave me time to learn fonts, how to hand-kern fonts, understanding what Pantone squeaky markers were, bromide, stripe setting, etc. All those industries that are dead in the water now. You know, and what was amazing about it is that when I came out of industry, people said the desktop publishing world is going to crater the creative world. You're in a dead industry. And I thought, wow, that kind of sucks. And it kind of did. And the reason for that is people had access to a ton of colors. They had access to a ton of fonts. They had access to printing on desktop. And suddenly everybody that had that access becomes a publisher. But guess what? It loses craft. And that swung back around Those of us who sat long enough realize that we're of value because we have taste and we have craft and we have what is a point of view. When you don't have that, what you have is execution. And we're seeing that just now, by the way. If I think about the streamlining effect of all these social platforms that are contagious today, there's a shortcut language and a particular vernacular that they're done with, which has been amplified by the technology we have in the palm of our hands, absolutely. But they're fast tracking the ability to get to a creator to create great stuff. But we're just scratching the surface. I would say today, the sort of content produced by TikTok is the desktop publishing world of back in, late 90s. So we're just scratching the surface. It's just those industries are going to amplify much faster. So, it's got nothing, that whole preamble has nothing to do with the left brain or right brain. It's just got to do with honoring creativity,
Yeah, and so I think what you're saying as well is even within TikTok with filters, with all these, give people the tools and then step back or step to the side and let them create and let them just do unbelievable things.
And didn't you see that with
impress
Vine? And didn't you see that with Vine? I thought Vine was amazing. I remember having a meeting, years and years ago, even before Vine was really a thing. And it was one of the big broadcast companies and said, where's your 6-second channel of content? Like, what are you talking about? And so where's the 60-second channel of content? Like, where's the short form content that I could stack and rack and get a couple of hours of program because I've curated it? And they just couldn't get their head around it. And if you look at where all these kids are spending their time today, man, they're in those channels doing exactly that. They're curating all this stuff, which is where, places like YouTube get alone in my mind, because you have a problem with content adjacency in places like that. But these other platforms where people can actually have time to express in a way that feels restricted, it's amazing. It's like a great creative brief for me is a problem solve. Oh, I hate those briefs when somebody says, oh, we have no challenge. You just can start with a blank page. It's like, oh, what? What do you mean? Start with a blank page? Who the hell wants to start with a blinking cursor? Not for me, man. Tell me what the problem, anyway. So for me, it's about problem solving.
So it's very interesting, and it's a good segue to an article that you wrote, because in many respects, what you were saying is tools. Sure, give me tools. Give me more tools. Technology, fantastic. Give me more technology. You can give me anything. Just don't give me the blank page.
Right.
And start from scratch, or the blue ocean, because it exists already. And so you wrote this article called "Connected a Consciousness" that made me think of the old saying, what's old is new again. And you were talking about the poor, beleaguered, beaten up, beaten down, and unlikely hero of 2020, the QR code. And you called it connected consciousness.
Yeah. And the reason for that, when was the last time you scanned a code?
Well, I mean, in the last 15 months, fairly often.
Incredibly often, right?
Before that, not so much.
But if you've gone to Asia, that's the only way they transact. And part of that is because of some of their platforms like WeChat, etc. But for me, it's a, and I poo-pooed this technology too in like 2011. But I think it's absolutely a riot. It's amazing what can happen when you think about the frictionless of the whole technology. And it was introduced to try and make marketers connect with something that felt like a barcode, and it didn't advance, but it sure has now. It's got to a point where even the US, we're behind on things like cashless payments. We're behind on the ability to allow people to connect directly. And why is this important? Why is it timely? As we move into a cookieless world, mate, I read a report somewhere that IAB, I think, quoted that 8 out of 10 marketers will say that the cookieless world is not going to affect their business. Are you kidding me? The only way those businesses have survived up until today is cookies through some of those third-party chains of which they've been hanging out on. They've been renting those data lists for the last decade. So if they're not collecting their own data first party, and the way to do that is through some of these contactless technologies like QR, good luck, man.
So I want to bring them all full circle, and I normally do a quote of the episode where my guest has to guess who said it. In this case, I'm not going to have you guess who said it, but I'm going to try and bring together the QR code, the quote, and this point about creativity within any hole shape space container. And so this was your quote. You do not really understand something unless. So I'm going to try an experiment. I don't know if this is going to work, but I'm a little risk taker. So I'm going to see if this. I'm going to try. Yeah, let's try it.
Where did this come from?
Everybody try this. I don't know if it's going to work.
Yeah, okay, somewhere.
Did it work?
You can explain it to your grandmother.
Ah, there you go. It worked.
Oh, it's a Google result. Yeah.
There you go. So that's the quote. You do not really understand something unless you can explain it to your grandmother. And I guess we just explained creativity to our grandmothers. May they, at least may mine rest in peace.
Mine too. Both of them.
But I thought we'd play a little bit of a game.
Please.
Which is I would like you to explain the following terms to your grandmother or to a grandmother. Are you ready for the elevator pitches for these things?
Oh God, please.
You're completely being put on the spot.
I really am. Yeah.
I'm going to let you can even pass. And all right. So, Clubhouse.
Okay. Radio, like the old days, live, but with a bigger audience that you can actually see who's online. So the audience, you can actually see how big the audience is listening to your radio show as you're having talk back with your friends. Nice. I like that. I love that last piece. I guess the way I've been describing it lately is if radio or if public access radio and social media had a love child, it would be called Clubhouse. You know what I've never thought about what I would call it, but I think it's also, if it wasn't your grandmother, and you said to me, what's Clubhouse? I'm thinking about joining the Shingy. There's a ton of people asking me to request to come play. I would simply say it was South by Southwest 10 years ago when it was cool. You could walk down the hall and drop into somebody's session, take a listen. You don't like it, leave. And you can just go wander down the hall and have a look at some of the topics. And if you like them, go in and jam. If you don't, come back out.
Oh, I like that.
And the good news is you can put your hand up and actually ask questions without having to take the questions at the end. So, yeah, kind of that's the vibe for me. That's why I was really interested by it initially, but yeah, we'll see. Or we could even just for now call it, just the audio version of South by Southwest for those people that know it. But I think that's a very spot on idea, by the way. So we did the grandmother version, and then we did the geeky navel gazing, insidious social media version. All right. Here's I got a double barrel one for you, and good luck with this one because I'm not sure I could. I don't even think I could explain this to myself. Am I even going to know what this is, though? That's the question. Yeah? Let's find out. I don't know. All right. Well, we'll start off with the easy one, Bitcoin. Okay. So, Granny, or for me, it was Mama. And Bitcoin is a little bit like the money you have under your mattress. However, it's not there. And oh shit, I don't know. I would have lost my grandmother at that, really, to be honest. At this point, she's run to her mattress because she didn't realize that you knew that that's where she kept all her money. Yeah, well, my grandmother used to keep all her money in her dressing gown pocket. I don't know how I'd explain it to them. I'm having a hard time explaining it to myself. Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. What's the second part, though? So I'm going to have to. You can come back and give me the articulated, eloquent version that Bob, Garfield would tell us in about 5 days, apparently. Well, the second one could be harder or easier, but the second one is an NFT, right? A non-fungible token. How would you describe? Yeah. And I will say, in fairness, I can always imagine it in my mind. And then when I articulate it to people like my daughter, what comes out is blah, 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 blah. Yeah, it sounds easy to convince yourself what it is, and then you try and explain it. It just goes pear-shaped real quick like I did with Bitcoin. But I don't know, because I am one. Somebody decided to do me as a meme recently, which I thought was hilarious. So I thought, well, that's kind of cute, but do I need to buy the bloody thing now? But it's a piece of technology, grandmother, where allows you to be able to understand who built the item of which you've bought and its provenance to a value that you think is worthy of it. In exchange for that value price, the person who created it also gets a percentage of that in perpetuity. And that's what the NFT should stand for. And it's using a system called the blockchain to navigate that. So that provenance from A, B, C, and D is actually held in a chain that allows that thing to be actually successfully navigated. So potentially would help validate the value of it. More importantly, the escalation of that value more consistently.
Well, I like that. I think that was very good. But it's also inspired. We're about to coin, excuse the pun, a new term today, and we're going to need to actually produce an NFT of an NFS, which is a non-fungible Shingy.
Not for sale is what that means where I'm from, but that's okay. Yeah, I'm down for that.
As I was saying it and you're drinking the wine, I'm like, come on, spit it out. All right, I'll give you one more, which is an easier one, which is TikTok.
Oh, how would I describe this to my grandmother if she was alive today? I would say I'm one of 10 kids, so happy brother day. I have 5 other brothers. You see Michael, Stephen, Gary, John, Anthony dancing for us right now. Well, immediately Susan, Diane, Christine, and Janelle are about to do that again for you. And now it's your turn to do that with me. And that's what TikTok allows us to do in the dance world. Apply that to everything else. The one that I really watch on TikTok, there are 2 of them. One's a bee lady who I shouldn't be watching on TikTok. I'm told she's everywhere else, but whatever. She literally takes these bees and, she'll, with nothing on, no garb, and just go in and grab the queen bee and whatever and gently put her over here. And 24 hours later, the bees move. And then she goes on. She uses this channel to just sort of showcase how you can be sustainable with bees and how to treat them ethically, which I think is amazing. And, yeah. But yeah, how was that?
I think that was pretty good. I would only add.
God, of course you would. In Lycra? No.
I was just going to say, and no matter how many times you do those dances and do your lip syncing, you're still going to get about 14 views. And then a teenager by the name of Charlie D'Amelio is going to come along, and she's going to do a similar dance, but she's going to get 8.5 million views as well, and be an empire. And that makes sense, right?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Yeah.
There you go. All right. So we will go from the ridiculous to the sublime. And our final segment, I guess, or maybe our final.
By the way, that's not that easy. You do that for everybody. That's not that easy. The NFT thing's that's bugging me now. Not NFT, Bitcoin. That bugs me. I'm going to see if I can come up with a better answer at the end, but I'm not going to.
Well, I will send you afterwards a brilliant video that was done by an Australian, and no less, of course, because all brilliant things are done by Australians, that actually explains Bitcoin. It is absolutely brilliant.
God bless.
And what it really does is it actually kind of draws the analogy between the barter economy, right?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I'll have 3 newts head and 1 shrunken head or something like that. And the guy goes, that'll be half a chicken. And he says, well, I've got something better than that. It's called, and so it's actually called gold. And they go, cold? Can I eat it? No, you can't eat it. Can I wear it? You can't wear it. It's very like Monty Python-esque. But the analogy, of course, is when people saw this thing called gold replacing the chicken or the bale of hay, it was probably about as foreign and insane and difficult to comprehend than the concept of cryptocurrency versus paper currency or digital currency, etc. Yeah. So I'll send that to you.
Yeah, that'd be great, mate. Thanks for adding value.
You were hoping for just something easy, like a banner ad. We did that already.
No. All right, what's the sublime thing you're talking about?
Okay, so we're going to call this final segment CMO confessions or taxicab confessions.
Okay.
Which is you've one of the things that is certainly enviable about you is that in your role as the digital prophet, you got to see CMOs at some of the largest brands and companies in the world,
Yeah.
come and go and grow and get promoted and get whacked, and see the evolution of the or the lack of growth within the marketing profession. So you've been having several conversations with them in the past and even recently.
Yeah.
What are you picking up from them? What are the trends? What are their fears? What are their hopes, their dreams? Share some of those nuggets with us, if you will.
Yeah, I did a really interesting series. The ones that come to mind, the ones that I can talk about, these wonderful conversations about leadership. Sounds pretty naff, but if you are managing people, which I assume most CMOs on planet Earth do, and their tour is still only about 18 months. But what was amazing about these conversations I had with these cats were, the one thing was you could just sort of see from their eyes that when I was speaking to them, particularly in the green room, the eyes were going left and right. And they're going left and right because they knew that they were trying to figure this out as they go. And the reason for that, and it really humanized them, which I was amazed by. In HR terms, most people understand that most people are happy with two qualities, and that's contribution recognition. The new layer on top of that is authenticity, in whatever shape or form that is, whether it's allowing people to have chaos going on in their background, whether it's having, the kitchen table style meetings, it's having that ability to say, hey, I don't know, you don't know, but we're going to figure this thing out, was just really quite amazing and super inspiring for me. And that was one thing that was a thread line. The other thread line that I thought was really amazing is, and I'd ask some of these brands, by the way, what are you doing that's going to be innovative, given that people have paused and you've got time and you can freedom think now? What are you going to do that's different? And the response a lot of times was, Shingy, you kidding me? First of all, we have fulfillment issues. Secondly, why would we be innovative when everybody's telling us what they're looking for is something else? They're looking for comfort. I'm like, well, what are they looking for? Comfort. They're looking for something that gives them nostalgia, that gives them a sense of safety and security. I'm like, oh, I didn't really understand that's what people are looking for. Now I get the baking phenomenon. Now I get the understanding that, people becoming gardeners because putting hands in soil is actually a natural antidepressant, and it comes full circle. And I didn't really understand that. So then I started to see, Joseph, these products that's slowly coming to market over the last 12 months, like a collab between Legos and Levi's. We can have like a 1980s, blue denim jacket, which just has a Lego plate, molded into the pocket, and you're able to build Lego on these products. And I thought, these guys are trying to take a swing at the fanny pack with a Lego construction on it to build nostalgia and, to bridge that whole sense, because, this fuzziness, this constant state of fuzzy is probably only going to be around for another 18 months or so, which seems like a long time, but I suspect it may be. And if you think about it, there's a time for people to capitalize upon that. So the biggest thing was nostalgia. And also, people still have resources for some of these brands that are particularly more accessible brands. So they were being asked for, I don't want a $30 bottle of wine. I want a $300 bottle of wine. I'm no longer going to a restaurant, spending $250 at a restaurant. So I have that resource, and I still want to make sure that the opportunity to consume is going to be conscious. And I thought, oh, that's kind of interesting as well. I was reading that, Louis Vuitton couldn't, they had to close their stores. So they built this, like a caravan, mate, is what you and I would call it. I don't know what they call it here, mobile home or something. I don't know. A pull along. I don't know. So it looks like this little caravan, and it's a store. And they would pull up to people who've made these appointments in these fancy houses. And you're able to buy products directly out of this store. Of course, they got to be shipped to you. I guess that's a whole new drop ship. But the idea of this was that you could build these, the context of getting to where people needed to be was quite amazing. I was also hearing that LVMH at the same time, like the Louis Vuitton head office, had turned into, when they were doing appointments, into these private VIP experiences where people were able to come in on a one-on-one. So all of these things that have started to eke into society, like in New York, for example, I really love it because MoMA is appointment only. And so when you turn up there, you have the ability to see the work that you love, but in the context of how you'd like to love it, which is not by masses of people quickly taking a selfie and never actually sitting there to absorb the work. And so they're taking that to another level, which is, how do I take that as a trend and how do I bend it to my brand and then provide my brand as a service? All of this to say that brands that act like a service are the ones that I think are going to tend to win. And that's where I was seeing these CMOs, their minds were just going, this is where it needs, this is how I need to understand how to process that. The real thing that was a challenge, or has been a challenge for them, is the processing, like the briefing. The briefing sucks today. The whole system of briefing just sucks. So they've got their stuff together. Their agencies have to get their stuff together. Production has to get its stuff together differently. And then, of course, all the platforms of which they're renting have to get it differently for them as well. So particularly when cookies go. So it's an interesting time for CMOs to think about the dilemma of how to actually, provide a point of view to humans on planet Earth right now.
I want to try in the few moments we have left and synthesize what I thought was Shingy poetry there. And it's funny because you said, when I asked you what you wanted to promote, you said nothing really at the moment because you're just starting out your content development process again. I think the world is breathing a sigh of relief that the content development is coming back from you, because there was a lot in what you said there, and I'm going to try my best in the time that we have to synthesize it, because you spoke about contribution and recognition, which led, and then the third part, authenticity, and I added in there's which is linked to the fourth one, which is vulnerability. But contribution and recognition are two things that the marketing profession have been robbed or stripped of. The ability to actually make a difference, and when that difference is made, to even be recognized for it, other than winning an award at Cannes,
right,
or all the wrong indicators. So I wanted to share that. And then you spoke about this constant state of fuzzy. I feel like that's almost the name of your next book. But I've got a few other ideas for you. That it's also a constant state of contradictions, right? Old is new, the QR code.
Right.
Expensive is cheap, which is that bottle of wine or champagne relative to the opportunity cost of the restaurant. Public is private, large is small, and mass is niche. And ultimately, maybe he has another idea for a book, which is this idea of by appointment only.
Yeah.
Because I was asked the other day, the big question everybody wants to answer is, how do you scale intimacy? And the answer is one appointment at a time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now I know. That's credit to you, buddy.
Yeah, cool.
No, listen, I'm so glad.
Appreciate you, man.
I feel like Carol Burnett. I'm so glad we had this time together. Shingy, he is the digital prophet. He hates fruffles. He plays the guitar and sings, although we would never know it, and we wouldn't see it on Twitter because he never tweets either. But he does hang out on Instagram. He sometimes visits the club. He puts out some content on LinkedIn, but he doesn't need to do anything because he is the Goblin King. He is the David Bowie of digital, let me tell you. It's been fun, and in our last minute, I'm just going to ask you one more grandmother question. I'm just kidding. No grandmother question. But what does 2022 look like in the digital world? Where is it all heading? Leave us with a throw us a frickin' bone here, and give us a sense of what is to come.
I think 22 is clearly just going to be a hybrid. It's going to be for those who feel confident and are gagging for experiences, are going to want to actually throw down with that. Those who don't are going to want to sit back and observe, and we're going to have to deal with both of those because they're important audiences. And from a technology, the thing that I'm impressed by and have been for the last 5, 6, 7 years is technology that falls backwards. And what I mean by that is not about failing forward. Literally, it's blending into the background, where my bookcase could be a television, where a plank of wood could be a graphical user interface. The only places you really need screens is when you really feel like you're entertained, and a lot of that's going to be in the places of autonomy. But things like living rooms, there's nothing worse than walking to somebody's place and they've got a 90-inch screen facing them, which tells you their interconnected relationships are not as dynamic as I thought they could be, because human to human is still more important.
Love it.
I think there's a lot of that going on, mate.
So human beings will fall forward and technology will fall. Did you say fall backwards?
Fall backwards, yeah.
Fall backwards. What a great combination. And the bottom line is, when that happens, the most important thing is there isn't going to be a collision. So that is good to hear as well. Shingy, you can come back anytime. And
Thanks,
we always leave with the final word from Chuck Norris, who will tell you whether you succeeded or failed or felled forward. But you did the best possible somersault forward, because Chuck Norris had this to say about you.
You are Chuck Norris approved.
There you go.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
I will be back tomorrow. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Good luck with your surgery, mate.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching the show about hope, positivity, optimism, and if there's time left over, a little bit of marketing with your host, multiple author, and global keynote speaker, Joseph Jaffe. If you like the show, tell a friend or two. Please subscribe to the show. And if you want to get inside news, previews of upcoming guests, and much more, visit josephjaffe.com/subscribe to sign up for the show's newsletter.
And despite the best ministrations of your wife, you still look ugly.